Where were you, Will Middlebrooks, when Juan Soto signed the largest contract, not just in baseball history, my friend, sports history, $756 million.
Where were you? Because mine is boring.
Mine was kind of boring too, but
You were awake, though.
I was awake. Oh, jeez, you weren't even awake.
CBS was not happy. I woke up to a lot of text and call. Soto, let's go. Soto, where you at? Can you do a hit? Can you come on? No, man. I'm in my second cycle of REM sleep right now.
Oh, no.
I had a long weekend at the Big Ten Championship with Jenny. Great time in Indy. There were some late nights with some friends and coworkers. HQ for CBS Sports HQ had some people there. CBS Sports, obviously, because they're covering the game. There were plenty nights of dinner, whiskey, and wine. So I need to catch up on sleep. I was in bed by 8:30. And I think he signed at like 10:15 East Coast time.
Yeah, I was just about to walk into the 10-year anniversary reunion of Interstellar on IMAX.
Okay.
So I went to go watch that on IMAX. I've never been to an IMAX movie before.
Cool.
So it was very cool. And so I'm walking into the theater, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up, and I'm like, babe, I gotta step, like we got 10 minutes till the movie. Give me 10 minutes to just kind of soak this in.
Yeah.
Figure out
If I was
what's going on.
smart, I would have left my phone like up because I did have a feeling that they wanted to get it done before winter meetings, which started this morning. So it was like he could, and I was like, man, it's getting late. And I feel like massive deals like that, or not like that. There's no massive deals like that. They're like half that. But they normally happen earlier for like media availability, right? And it just for it to Boris and his group to do it that late, I was like, I guess if they're West Coast, it's fine. But East Coasters are like, what the heck? Everybody's scrambling in Dallas at the winter meetings, So good times, and here we are.
I want to know about the ins and outs of potential other teams. I want to know, is it too much? There's a lot of questions I want to ask you. But first, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. I'm going to imagine that little bonus that you get on BetOnline is not as much as $756 million that Juan Soto received. But hey, there's only one way to find out. All right, I'm going to get right to the punch because you, of course, are our Red Sox expert. How much do you know? Because reportedly the Sox were into the end.
Yeah.
At the Soto sweepstakes.
They were in to the end.
What do we know?
I don't have a confirmed final offer. I know they weren't far behind the New York Yankees, who were at 16 years, 760. From what I understand, the Yankees didn't have the incentives that got it to 800, and that probably is the big deal. Now that incentive, I'll let you get into the contract here in a sec, but I might as well just talk about it now. There's a $75 million signing bonus. It'll likely be paid out over time. If you look at like Mookie Betts, he had a $65 million signing bonus, and it's paid every November 1st, a portion of it. So it'll likely be spaced out like that. I doubt they'll just be like, here's a check for $75 million. That's probably not going to happen. I wouldn't put it past Steve Cohen, but that's probably it's gonna over time. Now the opt-out in his contract is after 5 years, so 2029. If he opts into the remainder part of the contract, which would be at the time 10 years, 460 remaining on the deal. If he opts in to the final 10 years, then it will add an additional $4 million per season, which will give him $50 million per year the final decade of his, we'll call it, career, because it's going to get him to age 41. Which will take it up to $800 million. Now, I just want to put this in perspective. Obviously, different times. John Henry bought the Boston Red Sox for $380 million in 2002. This is the kicker.
That's good.
The combined career salary earnings of LeBron James and Tom Brady combined are $761 million.
Wow. Can I add one on top of that? Because
Please.
I went down a similar alley with like perspective and NBA, NFL. So the largest contract in NBA history And it's all relative too, because the NBA has restrictions on years. Major League Baseball doesn't. But on the surface, largest contract in NBA history, Jason Tatum, 314 million. Largest contract in NFL history, 450 million, Patrick Mahomes. Tatum and Mahomes combined, largest contracts in their respective sports, $764 million. Juan Soto is a guaranteed 765, not including the incentives and additional bonuses he could receive later.
So I ask you, since you asked the first question, and then I'll have my own answer to this question. Was this an overpay?
Of course. There's not a soul in the universe that is worth $765 million at hitting a baseball.
I'll let your wife. Oh, at hitting a baseball. I was gonna say I'll let your wife know. You said that, but you finished it with at hitting a baseball, so you're good. You're safe.
It's like people are gonna knock the Yankees for not going up to 800, but Steve Cohen literally said, "Here's a blank check. Whatever you want, just write it down."
Well, also the Yankees could have put in their offer 760 and said we think that's the highest one, and then he and the Mets could have been had they could have had the last word, and he'd been like done. I also think Juan Soto made it clear he wanted to have like a direct access and a really good connection with ownership. That was part of his want and need when signing with a team. Steve Cohen had him at his house for a meeting. No one else did that. I wonder how much that mattered. And if we're looking at overpay, yeah, to your point, is the baseball player worth that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I think a good way to look at this and a good, we'll call it analogy. I think sometimes owners look at generational talent when they're free agents almost like artwork, right? So it's like, hear me out. You see a piece of art you're absolutely in love with, artwork can get really expensive. You're going to pay what, if you have the money, pay whatever it takes to have that in your entryway of your mansion, right? And then whatever you pay, you're like, that's what it was worth because I got it. And these owners feel like these owners of the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Mets, obviously, are like, I'm going to pay whatever it takes to get this guy in my uniform. And whatever it takes is whatever it's worth because I got him. And every other owner that did not get him and did not win this deal, they're going to lay their head on their pillow and say that was an overpay because that's what it's going to make them feel better. Well, now we can spin that on 4 or 5 really good players, which the Boston Red Sox, in my opinion, if you just sign Juan Soto, you're still not a playoff team. You need to go get Max Fried. You need to go trade for Crochet. You need to add maybe Bregman. Maybe Alex Bregman can play second base. Maybe Teoscar Hernandez. You need a right-handed power bat. You just lost Tyler O'Neill in free agency to the Orioles. He had 30 some odd pumps last year for you. So the Boston Red Sox, their fan base is going to be pissed because we lost out on another big player. But this guy wasn't even on your radar to start the offseason. You're thinking we got no chance. And all of a sudden, you were a few $1,000,000 away from landing this guy. But you didn't. And that's okay because you need more. Now that shows ownership is ready to win. They're ready to build around that team. And that's got to excite you in a way knowing, okay, if they were ready to spend 700 plus, they have that money to go spend it elsewhere in multiple spots on our roster. And we have a chance to be really competitive next year.
Yes and no. Here's what inevitably what happened to the Giants, and I compare the Sox to the Giants all the time because they're kind of like, forgive me for saying this, but kind of like little brother to the big Yankees, right? And the Giants are little brother to the big Dodgers, or at least historically. What the Giants wound up doing, because they missed out on Cole, they missed out on Bryce Harper, they missed out on all these Aaron Judge, they missed out on all these guys, and they wound up. Now they did sign Willy Adames. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they brought in like Mitch Haniger, they brought in Alex Cobb, like they were forced to go to B level players because the A level players were not taking the big offers from
Mark my words, they signed Corbin Burns this week.
San Francisco or Boston?
San Francisco.
Are you hearing that from someone, or you just think it's inevitable?
I just think it's a really good fit, and I think
Yeah,
they
I
bring in
agree.
Buster Posey. They want to be competitive. They sign a shortstop to $182 million. That tells me they want to win now.
Yeah.
Corbin Burns is going to keep 6 or 7 years for 180 to 200. Let's be honest. The AAV is going to be 28 and a half to 30. But that puts them in a really good spot to compete with the Dodgers and the Padres. And Arizona's a good team too.
Yeah. The NL
So,
West,
but
NL
all but
West.
in this world, all you have to do is get in, right? Like win a wild card
Yeah.
spot. You don't have to win the division, but you're gonna have guys that once you do sneak into the playoffs, because that's what you're gonna have to do in the NL West, that you have a rotation built for the postseason. You don't
Yeah.
have to win your division. It doesn't matter.
No.
So you had two wild card teams make the World Series last year, right? Or 2 seasons ago, but with Arizona and Texas. But
Now,
it's
now,
I think he signs up. I want to throw this and then I'll be done with Corbin.
you're good.
Burns. He's from Bakersfield. I know it's 4 hours south, but he still grew up watching them. I
Yeah.
think that matters to go home.
It's funny, man. California is so large that
Right.
I do the same thing.
4 hours, that's like Texas. 4 hours is not my hometown. I would say if anyone doesn't know Texas geography, like where are you from? I'm like East Texas, not far from Dallas. It's 3.5 hours from Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so different than like East Coast because you could say like the miles between Bakersfield and San Francisco is the equivalent of like Boston to
It's New
Baltimore.
York City to Boston.
I was gonna say Baltimore to Boston, but that's probably a little too
Probably,
far.
well, I don't know the miles, but I know driving's probably like 4 hours.
I'll work on that. But
Work on that. I don't
it's
know.
just interesting how large California and Texas and
Right.
Florida,
You can cover like four
north
or
and
five
south.
states in New England, you know?
Yeah, that's nuts. All right, let me ask you this because you asked me the same question. Is Juan Soto worth $756 million, and did the Mets overpay? And do you think they're gonna regret this years
I mean, I
later?
kind of just told you. I was like, yes, the player, like no player's worth that. I agree with you on that. But I do think Steve Cohen said, I want him and I'm going to have him. I want that piece of artwork in my
Yeah, I
dining
like that.
room, right? Like
Yeah.
I want that. So whatever it takes is what he's worth because that's what it means to me. So,
Where do the Yankees go from here? That's an even larger
well,
looming
you
question.
do because now you're looking at Aaron Judge, right? And you saw the historic amount of pitches he saw within the strike zone last year and what he did with that
Yeah.
in the regular season. We don't have to talk about postseason. We all know he struggled, but let's not forget the regular season he had over 162 after a slow start, and he still was historically amazing. And part of that, and it was in part the reason for that was because Juan Soto and him being on first base at a 421 clip. Right? Like he hit 288 or something, but he's on base over 400, which he has been most years of his career. So, um, it just lengthened their lineup. So I think they go out. I think we see Christian Walker in pinstripes pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because they got exposed in the World Series defensively, and Christian Walker's the best first base. We've talked about this in our previous pod, but Christian Walker is the best defensive first baseman in all of baseball. He also can give you 30 to 40 pumps.
Mhm.
So I know he's right-handed. He's not lefty. It doesn't matter. Homers are homers, and he's gonna rake.
One more added perspective for the number that is 765. So largest contracts in sports, not just in North America, but this is worldwide we're
I
talking
was gonna
about.
ask about soccer, like Messi, and yeah, go ahead.
So Otan, or excuse me, Soto's up top, number one now at 765, which could increase to 800. After that is Shohei Ohtani at $700 million. Folks, let your kids play baseball.
Teach him how to hit the ball.
Lionel Messi, $674 million.
Yeah, but how many years was Messi's?
Four.
That is ridiculous.
4 years, $674 million. The
Right.
average.
Well, these other deals, 15 years, 4 years, 600. Okay, cool. You win.
Get this one. Cristiano Ronaldo after that at for some reason it's a 2.5 year deal. I don't know how that works, but it's
I
a
don't
two
either.
and a half year contract, $536 million. His AAV is $214 million.
Decent.
And then goes Patrick Mahomes at 450. I don't even know who this guy is. Kareem Benzema, Associated Football, so that means soccer.
Soccer. Yeah.
Mike Trout at 426, Canelo Alvarez at 365, Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge, Manny Machado. So the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Where's Dak?
His AAV is high, but his total isn't as large.
I couldn't remember what it was.
Let's see. Dak isn't even on a list of top. Oh, wait, he's like,
He should be up there. It was like three something, wasn't it?
looks like Dak is 240. which means he would
Oh,
fall.
well, that is that the guaranteed? Because I think there was
Ooh,
more. I think 240 was guaranteed because he restructured.
231 guaranteed, according to Spot Track. 231,
Okay.
which would
All
put
right.
him at around 40th to 45th ish
That's
on this list.
that's insane to think about.
Yeah. NFL is different because that brings me to my next question, Brooksy. And this is weighing on me a little bit. And I don't want it to be misconstrued as if I'm demeaning the Mets or I'm mad at the Mets or I think Steve Cohen is a bad person because he gave him all this money. But come on, like, this isn't good for baseball.
Why not?
760 something million dollars. There is
Why
one
is this not
thing
good for baseball? No, hold
because
on. We
there
we
is
talked about for years the owners having so much money and just viewing these teams as just assets, period. Which they are. These are businessmen who have turned baseball men, right? Um, but for years we talk about all the money they've had and how many owners just don't spend on their teams because they don't care about winning. They just care about owning teams and making revenue every year. Why should we
100%.
shame a guy who wants to win?
That's why I prefaced it by saying I don't want to shame Steve Cohen in saying this. My issue with it is that there's 26 other teams that weren't even close
Well,
to being in the running.
well, then maybe this can team start the big team start spending like this. There's going to be a separation in talent level.
Yeah.
And do you want to keep up or do you not?
They don't. They just want to make a dime.
That's the problem. So it's
I
not
know.
the problem isn't with the guys that want to win and want to spend the money. It's the problem lies with the guys, the John Fishers and the guys who don't want to spend money, even though they have this offseason a little bit. Um, it lies with the owners who don't want to spend the buck to win, to just want to make sure they're in the green every year, and that's all that matters financially. And it's not about winning. That's bad for the sport, not guys spending out of their ass.
NFL, best player in the league, plays in Kansas City. In the NBA, the best player in the league, Nikola Jokic, probably.
Yeah,
He plays in Denver.
right.
The Colorado Rockies have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball, and the Kansas City Royals have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball. It's I don't think it's good for baseball. Not that Juan Soto got 765. I think it's great for the Mets. I love and want to raise Steve
It's
Cohen up
also
as much
yeah,
as
but
I
how
can.
many players are you going to be able to compare to Juan Soto? So it's like there's a handful of players that are going to you could say okay, these guys are worth 500 plus now because Juan Soto signed for six something. Like it's not like a lot of guys are going to benefit from. I don't think the market shifts enough because of one player because he stands out that much. I think the market kind of is what it is. Like Christian Walker's still going to get the same thing he was going to get. Like
Yeah, agreed.
Anthony Santander, switch hitting outfitter, going to get the same he was going to get before Soto signed,
Yeah.
right? You might see some teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox overpay in the next few days for a pitcher because they want to make a splash for their fan base because they missed out. That's where you see benefit. I don't think the overall market is going to change because one player.
No,
I just don't.
I'm in agreement. My issue is that there are 20, probably 20 teams that if the money exceeds 200 million, they say no thanks.
Right.
Maybe even less than that. It might be
Right.
even like
Well, it's a
100.
scary thing to spend that much money on one human being. I get it.
It just goes back
Also,
to
too, and like I just want to throw this in there because we're talking the milkman barking at us.
you upset him. You,
That's fine. I hit a certain tone when I get fired up. So I think something too is like Shohei Ohtani feels worth $700 million because of the amount of revenue you're bringing in worldwide.
yeah.
You
Yep.
bring in not just the Japanese market, but the whole Asian market of these people waking up to watch games at 7, 8, 9 in the morning because he's pitching that day. All right. It goes up even more if they somehow bring in Roki Sasaki, right? They have Yamamoto. Like it's really good for their team and their revenue for their TV deals and all this stuff because of the viewership on their games and the merchandise and everything they sell on the side because of that.
Merch.
So you start looking, I forgot the exact term, but like viewership in the Dominican is or compared to Japan, Japan is 56 times
Oh
the
wow.
viewership. of Major League Baseball. Now, that could be a financial thing too. Poverty level is a lot different. Living style is different in the Dominican compared to Japan. So that plays into it well. But either way, viewership is 56 times higher. So there's money in there that you're not getting from Juan Soto. But Steve Cohen doesn't care. He wants to win. And he wanted that piece of artwork. And he spent whatever he could to put it on his wall.
It is going to be a fun environment with just all the Latino flair at Citi Field.
Oh, but believe it.
You
So
already
I
got
ask you too. So I look at this and then I go, all right, cool. They have Soto, they have Lindor, might not have Pete Alonso, they have Mark Vientos,
yeah.
Brandon Nimmo. Like their lineup falls off if you don't bring back Pete Alonso or sign Christian Walker, which I think Christian Walker goes to the Yankees because I think the Yankees would overpay to make sure they get him. Um, I'm going, all right, the Mets are they still the third best in the division? Behind the Braves are getting a lot of guys back from injury.
Yeah, they are. They are
The Phillies are still really good and they can pitch. So I'm looking at the Mets and I'm going, first thing you got to do here is re-sign the other face of your franchise, Pete Alonso. Right? He had a down year. He hit 240 with 34 homers, but you can pretty much book him for 155 games, 40 homers, and 100 driven in.
They need pitching. They need starting pitching.
They need pitching, but they also need to bring back a face of their franchise. So I think that the pitching side definitely starts with bringing back Sean Manaea. I'm behind that. He recreated himself. He dropped his arm slide, started pitching like Chris Sale. It created these really tough angles for hitters to combat. There's a lot of interest for Manaea, and even though he's going to be 33 next year, most predictions have him getting a 3-year deal. I could see the Mets give him a 4-year deal for like 80, 75 or 80, 20 per, just to make sure they get him.
Yeah. Lindor, I'm reading the lineup straight off of Fangraphs. Projected lineup goes Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Nimmo, Starling Marte, Jeff McNeil.
I think you can put Alonso in the 3-hole. They're going to re-sign him.
We'll see. Jeff McNeil, Tyrone Taylor, Francisco Alvarez, and Brett Beatty is who they have slotted in at third base. But they also brought in Jose Siri as kind of an outfield option too.
He's very good defensively.
They like Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie's little brother.
Jose Siri will bet 9-hole. He strikes out a ton, but he can still hit 20 homers. But he can go get it in center field.
Now, pitching wise, Kodai Senga, who was injured most of last season, Frankie Montas, who they brought in this offseason, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, who they just signed.
I'm not sure how I feel about him as a starter.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I'm intrigued by it. Could he do it? Great. But like, I feel like he's a really good 8th-inning guy.
You know what I think is kind of funny is that the Mets are bringing in like Clay Holmes, for example, and they're like, yeah, like let's try him out as a starter. I know you've been a reliever your entire career. Well, they lost Seth Lugo because Seth Lugo wanted to be a starting pitcher.
Exactly.
And they absolutely refused to let Seth Lugo be a starting pitcher. They said you are more valuable in the bullpen. So Lugo went to San Diego and then he went to now Kansas City and he just
he finished like 2nd or 3rd in the Cy Young.
Yeah. I would love to have Seth Lugo in New York, but they're doing fine.
Yeah. Seth Lugo has always been that guy. Everyone's been like, man, if they would just let him start, I think he can be really good. But like he was, like you said, he was so valuable as like a Swiss Army knife. He could close. He could give you 3 out of the pen. He could come in and set it up in the 8th, whatever they needed. So there was a lot of value to having a guy like that. I'll give him that.
Whereas if you look over in the Bronx and their lineup right now, Anthony Volpe, Jazz Chisholm, Aaron Judge, that's good. And then it goes Austin Wells, Giancarlo Stanton, if he's healthy. Right now, Fangraphs has Jason Dominguez slotted in at left field, DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, and then Trent Grisham.
Yeah, I think they're going to be heavy after Bregman. I could see Bregman being on that list and Christian Walker, which we've already hit on. They got to do something offensively. They got to protect Judge or he's not going to get pitched to. And then if he doesn't hit, when he doesn't hit, they don't win.
Yeah.
They did more last year. He hit most of the year outside of the first 30 games, but you have Juan Soto.
I think I'm just kind of shooting from the hip, but I think this absolutely has legs, and there's been rumors of it. I think Cody Bellinger is a New York Yankee by the end of the offseason.
There's a lot of rumors of him going to Seattle too.
Yeah.
So, but that's good for him with the team in Seattle that needs offense. and then a team in New York who not only needs offense but needs names because of the New York Yankees. So that just drives his price up a little bit.
Okay. As a brand, are the New York Yankees no longer the New York Yankees?
No, of course they are. What do
Okay.
you mean? They had 106 or 760 million dollars on the table for
Reason I
16
ask,
years.
the reason I ask is that Juan Soto, like reportedly, likes the direction that the Mets are going more than he did the Yankees, and the Yankees had a very, very comparable offer. It wasn't about money, it was about culture and direction.
See, sometimes I think when a player is going into free agency and he was, in this case, with the New York Yankees, a lot of people are like, that's got to be an advantage. I think it's a disadvantage. Even as a first class organization, as the New York Yankees are, they do everything first class. It's luxury, everything. They have the best of everything because they have the money and the resources to do it.
Except for the weather.
And what was that?
Except for weather. They do not have the best weather.
Well, yeah. But um, I just feel like a team can't give their full pitch to a player if they already know everything about them. So like when you pitch a team to someone, it's not always all true. You can say we're going to do this, we had this, we're going to do this, this is what's coming next, that we're going to do this with our farm system,
Mhm.
and you can build up this whole thing of what it's going to be to draw him to your organization. The Yankees can't do that because he was there for a year. He
Yeah.
knows too much.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the Yankees aren't the Yankees. The Yankees are always going to be good because they always have the financial resources. They're always going to have the scouting department. They're always going to have players that want to play there because of who they are and who they've been. So the Yankees are here and they're here to stay forever, right? A bad season for them is winning low 80s games. We're not going to have the Yankees winning 70 games. Like that just won't ever happen. Right? Do you agree?
100%. Yeah.
So
Unless,
I don't think
yeah.
I think this was we talked a little earlier about Steve Cohen having that personal meeting with him at his house. I think there's the connection with Francisco Lindor, which I thought with Rafi Devers and Alex Cora and David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez and Pedro Martinez that the Red Sox would bring him in. But at the end of the day, it came down to Juan Soto saying, I'm going to chase the highest number instead of maybe where I want to play the most, which that's what free agency is. You have that right.
I've been saying this for 3 years, ever since when he initially rejected that Washington Nationals $400+ million extension. And then there were rumors of the Padres potentially talking extension with him too. And nothing ever came to fruition. I've been saying this all along. He's going to take the largest check available.
I think it's interesting that there's the opt out after 5 years though, because that basically tells me prove it. If we're going to continue to be good, I need to see it. And if not, I'm out.
It's a small
Because somebody's
sacrifice.
still going to pay them.
Yeah.
And you got to think like money's going to be worth more. Like it's going to be even higher then. Not saying players are going to be signing for $700 million every year,
Well,
but 700 million, it's going to look different in 5 years. It just will.
yeah. I'm trying to think of like the young stars in the game. Like if Gunnar Henderson continues, yeah, maybe we're 600, $700 million. Adley
And
Rutschman's talking extension right now. Maybe he's worth $500 million. I don't know. Like you,
right, which is even more incentive for teams to lock up young guys now. Right? Like it's got to be scary as an owner, but at the same time, like your assets are going to grow too. Like you're going to have more money.
Cleveland signed Emmanuel Clase to a 5-year, $20 million extension.
Yeah.
Best closer in the league, 5 years, $20 million.
Well,
Cleveland.
Salvador Perez was on a crazy
He
his
was.
first deal, right? He was making like 1.5 a year or something.
Do you have anything else to add with Juan Soto? Because I have one more bullet point I want
Um,
to get to before closing this thing up.
honestly, really all I'm looking at remaining is like a couple free agents who could benefit from this.
Okay.
And I think it's well, any free agent that is of high interest of the Yankees and the Red Sox, since they missed out on Juan Soto, I think they will be very aggressive with over the next few days to get that name and make a signing for their fan base who feels a little let down. So like the Max Fried, Alex Bregman, I think they're high on the Red Sox list right now.
Yeah.
Max
Fried
Fried
is
being
so nice.
He would be so good there. He's such a ground ball pitcher.
Yeah,
Like,
such a good fit.
and then there's also for the Red Sox to go make a trade for Crochet because they have a lot of capital as far as prospects and big league ready guys. Guys are already in the big leagues to make those moves. Um, someone else we talked about Corbin Burns, who I think ends up in San Francisco. I think we see him moved at some point soon. And then Roki Sasaki's fun. Roki Sasaki. We talked about him a little bit a pod or two ago, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Dodgers have to be a lock, right?" I mean, I get the Shohei Ohtani connection there, but like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, these guys are kind of like, oh, they're the favorites because when it's a money race, because they have more money than everybody. This isn't a money race with Roki Sasaki because he asked his team to post him before age 25. He's 23. So teams can only use their international pool money to sign him. So this is going to be between 5 million and 7.5 million is the most. All right. So I'm looking at San Diego with Yu Darvish. There's a good connection there. He's idolized Yu Darvish, so that matters. And Darvish is going to be there for a while after his new contract. The Cubs with Shota Imanaga and Seiya Suzuki, two Japanese players he knows very well. San Diego and the Cubs have about $6.1 million in international pool money. The Dodgers have about five something. It's lower. It's less. But he's not coming over here for the money. We know that because we know he's only going to get that small amount. Obviously, he'll sign a bigger deal as he gets into his years playing over here. Same with Shohei when Shohei came over earlier and he's playing for $2 million, right? That's what it was worth with the international pool money. So don't automatically assume, oh, Shohei and the Dodgers, they're going to pay him all this money. They can only give him like 5.2 or whatever it is. So if he wants to play with Shohei and he wants to win, sure, he goes to Dodgers. But there's a couple other teams to keep your eye on.
Sacramento.
Sacramento A's, baby.
That was the last bullet point I wanted to touch on.
Oh,
I,
good.
it was a little bit of a final middle finger that they were like, oh, hey, we moved away from Oakland 2 months ago. And then 2 months later, they're like, oh, we're actually going to hand out the biggest contract in franchise history by exactly $1 million. Eric Chavez was the largest contract in franchise history at 66 million. That was all the way back in 2004. And then the A's, 2 months after moving away from Oakland, hand out $67 million contract, largest in franchise history by $1 million.
They supposedly made an offer to Shamanaya as well.
Oh, really? To bring
Yeah.
him back because that's where he started his career.
Right.
Threw a no-hitter. Interesting.
So obviously, if he had
They could be
accepted
good.
that, we
Yeah.
already know. But
They could be
um,
they could be good. You texted me when the earthquake happened off the coast of California, and I kind of made there's no legitimate connection, but it was funny that 10 a.m. the A's signed Severino, and then at 10:45 there was a 7.0 earthquake off the coast
it
of
was from all the
Northern
writers
California.
banging on their keyboards.
I was just thinking that the entire state of California was completely shook from the John Fisher actually spending money aspect, but
Right. Which is odd. Like I obviously like excuse me, haven't like read too much into it and why he's doing it. And like I think part of wanting to go to Vegas too is like, hey, like you kind of have to have some players that we want. Like,
yeah, they're
do you
trying
have
to.
a
Yeah.
roster that's worth us being like, yeah, come to Vegas? Because right now they need to extend Brent Rooker. They need to bring in several other players. There's a couple young guys that are fun on that team,
Mhm.
but they gotta bring in some players, or why would Vegas want them to come? It'd be more of the same. So I don't know. Maybe they can fill up Rivercat Stadium over there.
I do want to land this point. Um, if you want to make fun of the A's ownership, John Fisher, so be it. Well, let's chill out on the Sacramento trolling on social media a little bit. If you haven't been to Sacramento,
Hey, Sacramento's a great spot.
but there's a lot of because if you want to make fun of the minor league
Did you
stadium,
go to Sac State? Right,
my wife did. Yeah.
your wife did. Okay, where'd you go again?
Jessup University, which is
Yes,
outside of Sacramento.
yes, yeah, we're outside. That's right. Okay.
But I'm seeing a lot of when Severino signed, everyone's like, oh my gosh, like Severino showing up to Sacramento after living in New York and seeing it was like pictures of trash cans. And
That's the internet, though. Like
Sacramento, like it's not, it is not,
Sacramento's a lot nicer than Oakland.
yeah, yeah. Well, yes, but it's not tropical paradise. I'm not saying Sacramento is like 5-star resort, But
No.
like it's a very normal, nice. But the suburbs are really nice. We're an hour away from Tahoe.
I played in Sacramento a few times. Like I loved going there to play. The fans were always they showed up. Like it's a pretty big stadium for a AAA stadium, and they filled that place up.
Yeah,
I wonder if the locker rooms are still gonna be in left field. Because right now the locker room was in behind left center. For at least for the visiting team. The home team might be connected to the stadium. I'm not sure. But I know the visiting clubhouse was behind the left field fence.
Yeah. There's changes. They're doing like updates and renovations.
Oh, I'm sure they're gonna make it great.
Yeah. Yeah. But let's just chill out on the Sacramento trolling. Like it is not a bad place to live. Let's chill out.
I mean, California taxes suck. So if I'm gonna pay those taxes, I'm probably not gonna pick Sacramento. But Sacramento, to your point, is not a bad place.
Who is the next big player to sign?
Max Fried, Red Sox.
Santander's about to get broke off too.
Philly, right?
Maybe. Could be. He will not be getting $675 million or $756.
Somehow you lowballed that with 600.
That's insane. Wake and RAKE Podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hopefully when the next time that we jump on, there'll be more contracts to discuss. Brooksy, always a blast, my man.
That was fun.